Hello and welcome. Today we've got something simple for you. So sit down, stick around, and enjoy.
Hello and welcome to another video from the DCompose 2008 Awards. This time, it's all about the comic book of the year. Oh yes. Out of all the comics that I read during the past year, which one stands out in 2008 for the D-Man? So sit down, stick around, and enjoy. Alright, so this is it. Comic book of the year. The thing is, in order for me to actually say what comic book in its own would be the comic book of the year, it's kind of hard because the way it works, nowadays anyways, there's not really any standalone comics anymore. Most comics are either grouped up into series or into a storyline. So it's kind of hard just to take one particular issue of something and say this is the comic book of the year. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in another direction, kind of, and say it's more like a comic series of the year. And now, this necessarily isn't the series that's the best written, that's drawn the best, and all that. A lot of good stuff came out this year. But for me, this is the series that I, myself, personally, enjoyed the most getting when I went out to get my comic books during the week. You know, when I came out, I'm like, okay, you know, yes, this is the week this comes out. Good. I can't wait to read it. Love it, you know what I mean? I want to see what happens next, kind of a thing. So, I mean, a lot of good stuff came out this year. Transformers All Hail Megatron is actually really good. There's also Secret Invasion, which was interesting. Kick-Ass, very good too, but not always on time, and it kind of stretched over. Now is stretched over into 2009. I want a series that came out in 2008 and finished in 2008. In a series that I enjoyed a lot getting and a lot reading. Like I said, this isn't necessarily the best written or the best drawn thing in the world, but it's definitely a series that I loved and that any fan of this particular title will love as well. So the winner, without any further ado, is Venom, Dark Origins. Now I've talked about this in the past in other videos about how much I was actually into this thing. But now that it's actually completed, by far for me this is the comic book of the year. The comic book series of the year. As you can see here, it's a 5-parter. It's a 5-part story that pretty much fills in a lot of gaps of stuff that we never knew about Venom. You kind of, in the storyline or in The Amazing Spider-Man from 298 to 300, you kind of learn about him, but you don't really know what happens. For an example, some of the things that are covered in this miniseries are what exactly happens to Eddie Brock as a kid. Who is Eddie Brock? You know, he grows up, becomes a reporter and all that. You see all this. You see his whole thing with Sin Eater, which kind of becomes the breaking of the camel's back when Spider-Man reveals that the Sin Eater that Brock writes about isn't the real Sin Eater, the real criminal, the real killer, and thus gets Eddie Brock fired and pushes him on the brink of suicide, which leads him to the church. In the church, when Eddie Brock actually gets the symbiote, that's it. That's all we see. We don't know what happens after. Here we actually go into detail showing Brock getting the symbiote in the church and what happens to him that night. You know, which is awesome. We see him bonding with the symbiote. We see the symbiote revealing all Spider-Man's secrets. All this stuff that we never saw before in any of the past comics, we now see come to light in this miniseries, which is really cool. It actually stays really close or really true to the original story, in the sense that we all know that Venom makes a cameo appearance in Web of Spider-Man number 18, and that's actually in this, you know, which is really cool. And that's one of the things that I hope that I would see. After reading the third issue, I was thinking to myself, God, I hope I see that cameo appearance. You know, it would tie it in so nicely, and boom, there it was. Beautiful. One thing that we didn't see that I was a little disappointed in, but not, you know, I can look over it, is a lot of people don't know, but Venom actually had 2 cameo appearances in Web of Spider-Man. He had one in number 18. He also had one in number 24. So I was hoping to see that cameo appearance as well. You know what I mean? Because it's a lot less well known. The guides don't show it as being a cameo appearance, maybe because nobody at Wizard actually even knows that it is. Web of Spider-Man number 24 is another Venom cameo appearance. And I would love they would have put that part of it in the story where he's actually grabbing Spider-Man's leg outside of a window. Wasn't there. I wish it would have been. It's not. I can look over it. At least a cameo of Web of Spider-Man 18 was in there, which is cool. It goes on to also an amazing, between Amazing 299 and 300 in the beginning, we know that Venom confronts Mary Jane. We don't exactly know what Venom talks about with Mary Jane. And it's kind of cool because you actually go through the conversation that Venom has with her, which is kind of neat. And then afterwards, subsequently, Venom confronting Spider-Man for the first time in the church and all that stuff happens as well. So it's very true to the original story of Venom, gives a lot more insight into Eddie Brock and the symbiote as they first meet, which is very neat and something that hasn't been done before. So because of all this, and because of the great art in here in some of the places, you know, seeing Venom have the square teeth, you know, starting to grow the fangs, you know, and all that stuff, it was just very beautiful to look at, nice to read. Venom Dark Origin receives the Comic Book of the Year award from me. Basically, this, if you're a fan of Venom, fan of Spider-Man in general, you should actually go down and read this. I assume that they're going to reprint all these 5 books into one graphic novel type book, as Marvel always does. So you're probably going to be able to get them all for a low price, condensed into one volume. This is by far the best Venom miniseries, I think, ever. Yeah, I'd say ever. I mean, Lethal Protector wasn't bad, but the rest of the stuff that came after it really wasn't good. And it's nice to see a Venom miniseries be this good. Because when I first heard about this, I'm thinking, it's not going to be that great. The Venom miniseries never are that great. But this actually broke that stereotype for me. Very neat, very good throwback to the whole original story, and it gives you a lot of insight of what happens between the pages of the old books that we never do get a chance to see. So again, Venom Dark Origins miniseries, the comic books of the year. So until next time, guys, take care. Later.